You've walked past this table at Rural King without knowing what the regulars are quietly loading into their carts. I spent 12 years stocking shelves at Tractor Supply, and I know exactly what gets pulled first when demand ticks up. These aren't dramatic items. They're the boring ones near the front, gone before anyone notices the category thinning. Shelves still look normal right now. That's exactly why you need to look closer. Number one is the item most shoppers walk straight past, because it looks like somebody else's hobby. Rural King and Tractor Supply carry almost the same categories, but one store can quietly run thin on a format, while the other still looks stocked 2 towns over. Don't just check whether something exists. Check the format. Bucket or bag. Single can or case. Tank or cylinder. Start at the front tables, because the quiet stuff always goes first. Number 15. The metal ammo can. You'll walk past this display looking for tools, and miss what it actually is. It's not ammunition storage. It's the tightest, most rodent-proof airtight box on the floor, and almost nobody buys it for that reason. Rural King stocks a metal version and a plastic field box version. The metal one seals tighter and holds up better in heat. Most people who buy one only buy a single can. That's the mistake. Real value shows up with 3 or 4, spread through the house instead of stacked in one closet. A pantry full of good food still fails if the batteries and lighters are sweating in a cardboard box in the garage. Here's the shelf signal. The metal cans thin out fastest whenever gun aisle traffic spikes, while the plastic versions just sit there. This is cheap precisely because almost nobody treats it as a pantry tool. That changes the moment more people catch on. Grab 2 or 3 next trip. But a sealed can only matters if what's inside it can survive years of sitting, and that's where the real shelf problem starts. Number 14. Rock salt and ice melt. A Rural King in Ohio recently sold a full pallet of rock salt every single hour during one storm warning. Not over a week. Over a few hours, one weekend. That's not a supply chain story. That's a same-day panic story. Most shoppers think of salt as a $6 bag, not a household safety item worth stocking ahead. But rock salt isn't seasonal only anymore. One forecast can clear a shelf in an afternoon. Watch the shovel display. When it looks picked over, the salt pallet behind it is usually already gone. Picture a driveway turning into an ice rink the one week nobody can safely leave the house. Salt is cheap dollar for dollar, but only if you buy it before the forecast, not during it. Keep one bag on hand year-round instead of buying reactively. Once the ground is safe to walk on, the next problem is keeping the house warm without power. Number 13. Non-electric heat. Wood pellets and propane or butane heaters. The same storm event that emptied the salt pallet had that store selling a ton of wood pellets and non-electric heaters within hours. Here's the twist. The heater is almost never the thing that fails. It's the fuel behind it. A wood pellet stove works fine sitting in the living room, while the bag of pellets that feeds it runs out on day 2. People budget for the appliance once and assume the fuel will always be there. It won't be. Not during the exact week everyone else remembers they own a heater too. The shelf signal is simple. Heater displays stay stocked longer than the pellet bags next to them. Picture a heater working fine in a cold, dark living room next to an empty pellet bag. Buy the heater and a season's worth of fuel in the same trip, not 2 separate errands. Heat solves one emergency. Keeping the lights and the freezer running solves a much bigger one. Number 12. The generator nobody priced out in advance. At that same Rural King, units were going for $500 to $2,000 during the rush. That's what real customers paid, because they waited until the forecast made the decision for them. The affordable, right-sized units disappear first. What's left toward the end is either the premium model or the smallest unit on the floor, and neither is what your fridge and freezer actually need. That's price-preserving logic applied to an appliance. Buy the wrong size under pressure, and you overpay for capacity you don't need, or underpay for capacity that won't keep your food cold. Picture a full freezer with no way to keep it cold for 3 days. Entry-level and mid-range wattage units clear first. What's left is either too small or too expensive. Size the generator to your actual fridge, freezer, and well pump load now, off-season, while the affordable range is still on the floor. Power keeps food cold. But cold storage only matters if there's something worth keeping cold, starting with the one thing nobody thinks to stockpile. Number 11. Pallet water, bought by the case, not the bottle. That same store described water selling like crazy by the pallet during the same rush that cleared out the generators and heaters. Water is always the afterthought. People load up on exciting gear first and grab a case almost as a last-minute ad. That's backwards. Water disappears faster than food the moment real panic buying starts, because it's heavy, bulky, and households drastically underestimate how many cases they need for even a few days. The shelf signal is the water pallets near the entrance thinning out before the aisles behind them do. Picture a house with a brand new generator and a fully stocked pantry, and no clean water to actually cook any of it with. Most people who buy water buy it once and never rotate it, quietly defeating the purpose. Keep a standing case or two, refreshed on a schedule, instead of bought once in a panic. Water and heat solve the emergency, but the pantry has its own quiet, weak link, starting with how it's actually sealed. Number 10. Canning lids. The format that's really one company. The jars are the easy part. It's the flat lids that quietly become the bottleneck. And here's the detail almost nobody checks. Ball, Kerr, Golden Harvest, and Bernardin all trace back to one parent company. 4 brands, one factory behind all of them. That detail explains both the 1975 lid shortage and the 2021. You think you have brand variety because there are 4 labels in front of you. You don't. It's one supply chain wearing 4 names, and when one brand runs thin, the others usually aren't far behind. Picture a garden full of ripe tomatoes, jars washed and ready, and nothing to seal them shut. That's the consequence of trusting, "I already have some lids in the drawer." Old sealing compound degrades, so a few left over from 3 years ago is often false security. Buy a season's worth at the start of canning season, not mid-harvest when everyone else remembers at once. Sealing a jar only matters if there's something worth sealing, and the next item decides whether that food is any good decades from now. Number 9. The 5-gallon bucket, Mylar bag, and oxygen absorber combo. Here's a number worth remembering. The exact same bag of rice, stored in a paper bag, lasts 1 to 2 years. Sealed inside a Mylar bag with an oxygen absorber, inside a food-grade bucket, that same rice can last 25 to 30 years. Same food. Completely different outcome. For about $1 or $2 per bucket. Most shoppers buy the bulk bag of rice and stop there. They skip the Mylar bag and oxygen absorber sitting 2 aisles over in the hardware section, which is exactly why the connection never gets made. A $35 setup can turn a couple $100 of bulk food into decades of usable storage. Skip it, and you've bought food that quietly expires while you weren't watching. Bulk bags of rice, beans, and wheat move steadily off the shelf. The bucket, bag, and absorber combo sits untouched until somebody asks for it. That gap is the whole problem in one sentence. Picture a pantry that looks fully stocked on paper, quietly losing shelf life every month it sits unsealed. This is the one upgrade that makes every other pantry item on this list actually last. Buy the bucket kit in the same trip as the bulk food. Sealed storage protects staples that already exist. The next item decides whether there's a future harvest to seal in the first place. Number 8. Heirloom and open-pollinated garden seed packets. The seed rack looks completely full in January. By March, it's noticeably picked over, and almost nobody clocks the exact moment it happened. One major heirloom seed company reported order volume 5 times higher than the year before, forcing it to shut down online ordering just to catch up. Here's the twist. The seeds aren't unavailable. They're unavailable by the time most people think to buy them. Common hybrid vegetable packets restock just fine all season. The heirloom and open-pollinated varieties, the ones you can actually save seed from year to year, sell out fast, because far fewer companies grow them at all. Picture a garden bed ready to plant, and a seed rack with nothing left but decorative flower packets. Heirloom seed is different from hybrid, though. Save it right, and one purchase can feed your garden for years, not just one season. Buy next year's seed the season before, not the week planting starts. Seeds are the long game. But the next item is about keeping animals alive long enough to turn stored calories into real protein. Number 7. Chick Days starter feed and poultry basics. The fluffy chicks in the front bins get all the attention. Nobody's watching the starter feed, and the waterers quietly running low right beside them. That's the real shortage, hiding in plain sight during one of the store's most heavily promoted events. Rural King and Tractor Supply both run Chick Days on a tight, narrow window. The birds are the fun part. The feed that keeps them alive past week 1 is what almost everyone forgets to plan for. Starter feed and waterers move faster during that window than any other week. And once it closes, restocking on your schedule is a lot harder than it looks. Picture a backyard coop full of grown, healthy hens and an empty feed bin with the nearest restock 2 towns away. Eggs are a genuinely renewable protein source, but only if the feed supply chain behind them doesn't break first. Buy an extra bag or two the same day you bring the birds home, not after you've run out. Animals need feed to actually produce food. The next item is about making sure that feed still works when a real dry spell hits. Number 6. Bulk livestock and wildlife feed. Feed corn looks like an endless commodity, right up until a rough growing season quietly tightens the supply behind it. Here's what most backyard households never watch. Livestock feed and wildlife feed, like deer corn, draw from the same regional grain supply, so a bad crop year pinches both at once. That same corn also feeds ethanol production and export demand, categories most shoppers never think about in a farm store aisle. Local shelf prices move on that regional cycle before any headline calls it a shortage. The bag price creeps up quietly, and the bag size shrinks, long before the shelf looks empty. Picture a household relying on feed corn as a caloric backup, watching the price per bag climb with no explanation posted anywhere. Feed-grade corn can double as an emergency human calorie source too, something most shoppers never consider tossing a bag in the cart for the chickens. Buy feed on a rolling basis instead of waiting for a lean season to stock up. Grain solves calories, but calories without a way to cook them still leave dinner unsolved the moment the power goes out. Number 5. Cast iron cookware. A full pantry means absolutely nothing the night the stove doesn't work and dinner still has to happen somehow. Rice, beans, and canned meat on the shelf, and no way to actually cook any of it once the power's gone. Cast iron needs no electricity. There's no non-stick coating to fail under high heat, and it moves straight from a propane burner to an open fire pit without damage. More than you can say for most modern kitchens. Built entirely around powered appliances with zero fallback for the day none of them work. Watch the shelf during any cold weather rush. Basic single skillets restock steadily enough. Full multi-piece sets and Dutch ovens are the first things gone. A full pantry and an empty stove are practically the same thing as an empty pantry. Buy one good skillet and one Dutch oven now, before a cold snap makes either scarce. Cast iron lasts generations if seasoned properly, one of the only true one-time purchases here. Cooking solves the meal. Staying warm while you eat it depends on the next item most people buy for looks, not function. Number 4. Insulated coveralls and work boots. The coveralls on the rack look like plain farm chore clothing. They're actually the difference between working outside safely during a real cold snap or not working outside at all. Cheap or worn boots and coats fail exactly when outdoor chores stop being optional. Splitting wood, hauling water, checking animals. None of that waits for better weather. Insulated work boots and coveralls are rated for sustained outdoor exposure in a way an ordinary winter coat isn't. Built for hours of continuous labor, not a quick walk to the car. Here's the shelf signal. Mid-range sizes and popular insulation weights sell out first during any hard freeze forecast. Odd sizes just sit there. Picture a household with the power out, wood needing splitting, and nothing warm enough to safely do it in. Size and try on gear before a cold snap, not during one. The right gear turns emergency outdoor labor from genuinely dangerous into merely uncomfortable. Staying warm keeps a person working. The next item is about keeping the actual property intact while they do it. Number 3. Tarps, rope, and baling twine. A storm doesn't just knock the power out. It tears roofing, brings down branches, and breaks fences, and none of that waits politely for a store restock. Everyday farm store staples end up doing double duty here. Here's the trap. The category exists on the shelf. Heavy-duty tarps and real rope, the kind actually rated for wind and constant use, are a much smaller slice of that shelf than shoppers assume. Baling twine and utility rope are priced for constant heavy use, exactly why they're grabbed first the moment a fence or roof needs an immediate fix. Watch what disappears after any severe weather warning. Heavy-gauge tarps and quality rope vanish fast. Lightweight versions just sit there, looking almost identical on the shelf tag. Picture a torn roof with no way to secure it before the next round of weather rolls in. This is the cheapest item on the entire list, and one of the most likely to be needed within 24 hours of any real event. Keep a heavy tarp, rope, and twine on hand year-round, not just once storm season starts. Every system on this list, food, fuel, warmth, shelter, depends on one more thing nobody wants to think about: staying healthy enough to actually use any of it. Number 2. Basic first aid and livestock health supplies. A full pantry, a generator, and a warm coat don't matter much if a basic cut or burn can't be properly treated. Rural King's Farm and Animal Health aisle keeps human first aid basics and livestock wound care close together, and that's not an accident. Most home first aid kits are built for small accidents, a scraped knee, nothing more. They're not built for the heavier duty wound care a chore-related injury needs during a real emergency, when a trip to urgent care isn't simple. Antiseptic, wraps, and blood-stop powder are priced for frequent real-world use on an actual farm. Exactly why they move fast whenever chore activity spikes. Watch the shelf carefully here. Basic kits restock just fine. The heavier-duty wound wrap and blood-stop items are the ones that thin out first. Picture a minor chore injury happening during a power outage, with nothing on hand beyond a small box of adhesive bandages. Check and restock the kit twice a year, not just after something's gone wrong. This is the one item that quietly decides whether every other item on this list still works. Everything so far protects the body, the house, or the pantry. Number 1 decides whether all of it was worth buying in the first place. Number 1. The test nobody runs until it's too late. Here's the part almost no one wants to hear. Everything on this list can sit in a garage for years and still fail on day 1 of a real event, if nobody has ever tested it. Sealed food with no way to cook it. A generator nobody started since the day it was bought. Untested gear isn't preparation, it's just expensive clutter. That same real-world storm, the one that cleared out shovels, salt, heaters, generators, and water within hours, taught a quieter lesson too. The households who came through it best weren't the ones who bought the most. They'd already used what they bought before they needed it. Every twist on this list, the single-source supply behind the lids, the seasonal timing behind the seeds, the format traps in the tarps and the workwear, the missing companion items behind the chicks and the heaters, converges into one final idea. Preparedness isn't a purchase, it's a rehearsal. There's no shelf signal for this one, and that's the point. Picture a garage full of every item from this list, and a family finding out for the first time, during an actual emergency, that the generator won't start, or the Mylar seal failed months ago. I run my own generator and cook one full meal from stored food twice a year, just to be sure everything still works. Pick one item from this list each trip. Once a year, actually use it the way you'd use it in a real event. Buying feels like the finish line. It isn't. Testing is. So here's how this whole list connects. Storage formats like the lids and the buckets only matter if something's worth sealing inside them. Production inputs like the seeds and the feed only matter if the animals and the garden actually make it to harvest. None of it matters if nobody can cook it, stay warm eating it, or treat the injury that happens hauling it in from the truck. Each layer is only as strong as the layer underneath it. On your next 3 trips to Rural King or Tractor Supply, don't try to buy everything at once. Pick one storage upgrade, one seasonal input, and one usability item. One from each layer, not all 15 in a single cart. The shelf doesn't have to be empty for a household to be unprepared. The real gap is almost always in the format, the timing, or whether anything's been tested, not whether the category still exists. So tell me which of these 15 you've already noticed thinning out at your own local store, and which one actually surprised you.